Listen, we all want to feel younger, look a bit sharper, and just have boundless energy, right? But let's be honest, the internet is literally flooded with pseudoscience and quick fix fads. It's overwhelming. So today, we're cutting through all that noise. In this explainer, we are going to look at the hard, biological science of how your daily habits physically transform your body from the inside out. We're talking cellular energy, gut microbiomes, the whole shebang. If you really want to understand the true mechanics of vitality without the fluff, you are in exactly the right place. Let's start with a surprisingly relatable shock. Picture this. You're in your early 30s, you think you're being, relatively healthy, and bam, you're hit with a severe case of gout. That's a painful joint condition we usually associate with older age or rich, decadent diets. So how on earth does that happen? Well, it sets the perfect stakes for our discussion today. It shows us that if we don't understand how our internal systems process metabolic waste, we can actually age our bodies incredibly fast without even realizing it. So, here is our roadmap for today. We're going to rebuild our understanding of the body in 4 quick steps. First, the uric acid trap. Second, hacking your gut microbiome. Third, cellular aging and longevity. And finally, the science of skin.
All right, let's dive right into part 1, the uric acid trap.
Now, you've probably heard people say you should avoid purines to prevent gout, but what actually are they? Biologically speaking, pairings are compounds found right in the DNA bases within cells. When you digest food, those cells are broken down, and the purines get converted into uric acid. If way too much uric acid builds up in your blood, it literally crystallizes in your joints. Your white blood cells, the neutrophils, rush in to attack those crystals, and that causes the massive, painful inflammation that we know as a gout attack.
So the absolute crucial point here is understanding where these purines actually come from. If purines come from the DNA inside cells, then eating foods packed with millions of tiny cells is going to give you a massive purine dose. Think about fish roe, like caviar or mentaiko. That is thousands upon thousands of tiny cellular eggs, which means a huge purine count. But a standard chicken egg, technically that is just one single giant cell. Because of that, it contains almost 0 purines. It's a completely safe protein source for your joints.
Now you might be wondering, what if you just try to cheat the system with medication? Well, there's a hidden danger here. When you take drugs that stop the creation of uric acid, a compound called ATP, which is essentially your cellular energy currency, starts to accumulate in your body because its breakdown process is paused. If you suddenly stop taking that medication just because you feel a bit better, it's literally like breaking a dam. All that built-up ATP suddenly and violently breaks down into a massive flood of uric acid, triggering a severe, debilitating gout attack. Consistency here is absolutely everything.
Moving right along to section 2, hacking your gut microbiome.
Okay, so we all know the old advice about eating yogurt for gut health, right? But actually, just eating a bowl of yogurt isn't going to cut it if you don't have the right internal environment. There is a vital difference between probiotics, which is eating the beneficial bacteria directly, and prebiotics, which is eating the food that those bacteria actually need to survive. If you don't eat prebiotics, like the dietary fiber you find in oatmeal and rice bran, those good probiotic bacteria won't take root in your gut at all. They'll just pass right through you. You really have to build the soil, not just plant the seeds.
And get this, how you pair your foods matters just as much as what you eat. You could be eating superfoods but entirely ruining their benefits. Take blueberries, for example. They are packed with these powerful antioxidants called anthocyanins. But if you blend them with milk, the dairy protein casein wraps around the anthocyanins and blocks up to half of their absorption. No way, right? Similarly, mixing natto, which is fermented soybeans, with raw egg white is a terrible idea. The raw egg white contains a protein called avidin, which completely blocks the absorption of biotin, or vitamin B7, and that vitamin is absolutely crucial for preventing hair loss and aging.
So, what should we be eating? Well, here is the ultimate science-backed rejuvenation breakfast. We start with soy yogurt to avoid that dairy interference we just talked about. Then we add oatmeal, which is packed with beta-glucan fiber to feed our gut bacteria. Toss in your morning protein, some kiwi and banana for vitamins, a handful of nuts, and crucial rice bran, which gives you a powerful antioxidant called gamma-oryzanol. When your gut bacteria feast on this specific mix, they send signals directly through the gut-brain axis to release GLP-1. That's the famous satiety hormone, keeping you full and supercharging your metabolism all day long.
Which brings us to section 3, cellular aging and longevity.
Let's zoom in to the microscopic level for a second and talk about everybody's favorite morning ritual, coffee. It's not just a vehicle for caffeine. Sure, caffeine boosts your attention, but coffee actually contains 2 other incredible compounds. First, chlorogenic acid, which is a powerful polyphenol that lowers uric acid. But the real magic, that's a compound called trigonelline. Trigonelline actively supports the function of NAD+, a totally critical molecule in your body that dictates cellular repair and energy. By supporting NAD+, trigonelline actually speeds up your muscle recovery from fatigue. It's a real game changer.
And supporting that cellular energy ties directly into a crucial biological concept you might have heard of, autophagy. Basically, autophagy is your body's built-in recycling program. Think of it like a box of oranges. If one orange goes rotten, it's going to quickly spread and rot the whole box. Well, your body has damaged, aging zombie cells. Autophagy is the process of finding those rotten oranges and clearing them out before they damage the healthy cells around them. And this incredible cleanup process is activated by your sirtuine longevity genes, which, you guessed it, require that NAD+ we just talked about to function.
The crazy part is we can actually use specific foods to trigger these deep internal cleanups. Enter camu camu. It's this intensely sour fruit powder from the Amazon. Honestly, it tastes pretty terrible. But researchers found something astounding. When they fed mice a hypercaloric, obesity-inducing diet, but added camu camu powder, the mice didn't gain weight. When they tested it on humans, even those eating high calories saw their visceral fat, that dangerous fatty liver, completely clear out. But why? It wasn't just the vitamin C. It turns out camu camu targets exactly one single specific strain of bacteria in your gut called Akkermansia. And Akkermansia is an absolute powerhouse. When it feeds on camu camu, it proliferates and literally shifts your body's fat composition. It increases energy-burning brown fat and supercharges your basal metabolic rate, melting away that visceral fat. One tiny target, massive results.
All right, let's zoom back out for our final part, Section 4, the science of skin.
We often think that to look good and build muscle, we just need to consume massive amounts of protein. But so many people doing this end up suffering from terrible acne. So the crucial point here is balance. When you consume excess protein, especially beyond what your body strictly needs for repair, it spikes a growth hormone called IGF-1. This activates a pathway called MTO, which signals your cells to rapidly proliferate. This overproliferation extends right to your sebaceous glands, leading to massive excess sebum production, clogged pores, and really stubborn acne.
So what about keeping your skin hydrated and young? Well, it's entirely about biology, not that $100 night cream. Skin moisture is actually dictated by transepidermal water loss, or TELW. To stop water from just evaporating right out of your face, you need the right fatty acids in your skin's outer layer, the stratum corneum. You build this from the inside out by consuming stable, unsaturated fats like oleic acid, which you find in olive oil. Conversely, if you consume way too much omega-6 oil, like cheap salad oils or excess sesame oil, it cascades into arachidonic acid, sparking systemic inflammation that completely ruins your skin barrier.
Now, knowing all this amazing science, why on earth do we still crave junk food that ruins our gut and our skin? Well, as this quote hits the nail on the head, human evolution hasn't caught up to modern processed foods. For almost all of human history, finding a high-calorie, fatty, sugary food was a rare survival jackpot. Today, processed foods hijack that ancient DNA. When you look at a donut, your brain's emotional survival center overrides all logic, screaming at you to eat it because, quite frankly, it thinks you might starve tomorrow.
So how do we beat our own evolution? There's actually a fascinating psychological hack for this. When you experience a massive craving for junk food, just stop and write down exactly how you feel and what the long-term consequences of eating that food will be. By forcing yourself to articulate this into words, you physically shift the blood flow and electrical activity in your brain. You activate the highly rational prefrontal cortex, which in turn acts exactly like a brake pedal, directly suppressing the emotional, craving-driven amygdala. You can literally think your way out of the craving.
We've covered a massive amount of ground today in this explainer, from the purines in our cells to the Akkermansia in our guts and the fats that literally build our skin. So, I want to leave you with this final, really important question to think about. Is your outside truly reflecting the health of your inside? Remember, every single bite of food is a biological instruction you give your cells. Are you instructing them to age and inflame, or are you handing them the rejuvenation playbook? The choice, and the science, is now completely in your hands.